Good People organization for these pledges. We all stand and face the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That, if you come forward, tell us about how good people come across.
Thank you, Mayor. Good night. Well, as the Mayor said, we are here representing Up With People. Up With People is a global education program who strives in bringing the world together through service and music. And we are in the process of bringing 120 students from 20 different countries to the North Fulton County area in the week of March 11 through March 18. I'm here as part of the advanced team, and we are making all the arrangements for make this visit possible. We are now looking to reach out to the community to get involved with as many as possible schools, churches, businesses, local associations, and local non-profits. We are also looking for host families. Our 120 students from all over the world, they stay with local host families, and that's one of the most important components of our program. We are looking for host families who are willing to open their homes to these 120 students during 1 week. We only ask to have a place to sleep, to have a couple of meals during the week, and to have limited local transportation. So if any of you, if any in the city, if you know about anyone who would be interested, please come to us. My name is Misael Oliver. I'm from Mexico City, and you can contact me at 303-515-1545, or you can visit our website www.upwithpeople.org/North Atlanta. You can also come at the end of the session to talk to us and ask about anything you would like to know about Up With People. Thank you.
If I just Google Up With People, I'll eventually get to your site.
Yes.
Let's have a hand for Up With People.
Thank you.
Please turn on your microphone.
National Girl Scout Cookie Day is designed to celebrate the Girl Scout cookie program and the 5 basic skills girls learn by participating in this program: goal setting, decision making, money management, people skills, and business habits. And whereas Girl Scout cookie sales began in 1917 as a way to finance food activities, this was only 5 years after Juliet Gordon Lowe started Girl Scouting in Georgia, in the United States. Whereas Girl Scout cookie sales started as a service project with a missile food from Muskogee, Alabama, baked cookies and sold in the high school cafeteria. Today, Girl Scouts of the USA now offer 11 favorites for years old nationally. And whereas Girl Scout cookies are an icon of American culture, for nearly 100 years, Girl Scout cookies, Girl Scouts with the enthusiastic support of their families, help to ensure the success of this annual sales program. And whereas the month of February and March are designated for cookie sales, it is championed with a powerful skill sales approach and responsible personal motive for homes and offices, a time-honored tradition. Now, therefore, I hear you with Mayor of the City of Raleigh, who hereby proclaim February 8th, 2003 is National Girl Scout Cookie Day, and urge all of our citizens involved to applaud the good of the Girl Scouting has made to support the leadership and professional development of girls in the state of Georgia and by Girl Scout cookies. So let's have a hand for Girl Scouts. Wait, this is not a Girl Scout cookie. We have downstairs in the reception for our Wilton. The girls, if these folks in the audience would wish to buy Girl Scout cookies and you do not knock at their door, how would they find where you can buy Girl Scout cookies?
Well, if you...
First of all, in the city of Roswell is your gift, your name, where you live, and then you can address.
Okay. Well, hi. Okay, I'm Jordan and
Jordan Fullday.
Rose Cox in Roswell. You go. My name is Caroline Buckner. I live over off of Coleman Road in North Point subdivision. We have cookie booths at the Rack Room over by the Roswell High School, and also near the McDonald's and LSCOs over also near Roswell High School. We are Troop 25334, and you can contact us through the service unit.
Whoever shot you, you'll come to my phone and give an address. I do this for Boy Scouts too.
Hi, my name is Sydney Jerez. I live also over on Coleman Road in a subdivision called Magnolia Walk. And yes, that's me. Okay.
Go. You got it.
I'm Mercedes Terry, and
The only way to get over the shines is not to be so I have to agree that they all go. All right, can one of the girls volunteer together?
oh, Lake Plank Circle.
There we go. Take your seats.
Excuse me. Mayor, would you please turn on your microphone?
And I will let you know that I have a long relationship with Girl Scouts. My mother started the first Girl Scout troop in Roswell, and my sister was a Girl Scout, and that's where I learned to enjoy s'mores. We didn't learn that in the Boy Scouts. Next, we have a proclamation for Georgia Day. Do we have someone here on Georgia Day? Shirley Lowe and Daughters of the American Revolution. I don't know, y'all didn't have the full regalia on tonight, so I didn't recognize you immediately. Whereas the state of Georgia was founded by General James Edward Oglethorpe, who received a royal charter for establishing a colony in the honor of King George II, and led 116 people from England on the HMS Anne, landing near present-day Savannah on February 12, 1733. And whereas George Walton, Button Gwinnett, and Lyman Hall each signed the Declaration of Independence on behalf of Georgia, which became the fourth state to ratify the U.S. Constitution on January 2, 1788. And whereas since its founding 280 years ago, Georgia has grown to over 9 million people and progressed from a rural state to a commercial, financial, and cultural center of the Southeast and the nation. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim February 12, 2013 as Georgia Day in the state of Roswell, and encourage all of our citizens to acknowledge and celebrate the state's history and accomplishments. And what can you add to that?
You said it very well.
You wrote it, so I appreciate it.
We're trying to promote Georgia, its heritage, its agriculture, products that are made in Georgia, our patriots who originally came to Georgia, everything about Georgia. We love Georgia.
And everyone in this audience loves Georgia, and we appreciate your bringing this birthday of Georgia in 1788 to our attention, and we all will join you in celebrating February 12th. What day is that?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
You're
Tomorrow,
just in time.
Tuesday, February 12th is Georgia Day. So remember that when you wake up in the morning, and feel good about Georgia all day long. And thank the Daughters of the American Revolution for bringing it to our attention. Let's have a hand for Daughters of the American Revolution in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And next we have a grant. And I'd like to call upon Becky Wynn for that recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll have Brent Kern from Trout Nutrition USA, Greg Cooper, and Bruno, and Interim Chief Rusty Grant. If y'all come on up. I think this is really great. Bruno's our canine. He's a dual-purpose canine, and Trout Nutritional has donated a Kevlar vest for him. So I'm going to let Chief Grant and canine handler Cooper.
Thank you. Several weeks ago, we were approached by Brent Kern, who is a Roswell resident and an employee of Trout Nutrition. And Trout Nutrition provides supplements to many of the dog food companies. Mr. Kern approached us and offered to donate a vest, a canine vest, to Bruno, and the value of the vest is over $800. So it was a tremendous gift to the city of Roswell and to Bruno. So we just want to let y'all know what they did, and actually right now Bruno is still in training and learning to appreciate the fit of the vest. So he's not wearing it right now, but he has. I've seen him wear it, and it fits him very well.
It's my pleasure and honor to present the vest to the Canine Corps of Roswell and from Trout Nutrition.
Thank you, Mr. Kern. I was just telling Mr. Kern we'll be getting another dog, and we'd love to have another vest next year for that one. So, we really appreciate it. And Mr. Mayor, could we have a picture with Bruno?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'd love to have our picture taken with Bruno, and I'd love for the Girl Scouts to get their picture taken with Bruno also, because they're...
Front of the seal.
We're going to do it all together.
Sydney and Mercedes go on the other side.
Pretty boy. Go ahead.
Do I have a full... do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the items on the consent agenda? Seeing no hands up, do we have all in favor of the motion raise their hands? Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon liaisons, the Administration and Finance Department, Councilmember Rich DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is presentation of the fiscal year 2012 comprehensive annual financial report. It will be presented by Mr. Lee, who's going to tell us how well Roswell did in 2012.
Thank you, Councilmember DiPolito. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight I'm going to present the 2012 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or the CAFR for short. As you're aware, the Georgia Code requires that we have our financials reviewed on an annual basis by an independent auditor. The city has selected Malden & Jenkins to perform this activity, and tonight we have Adam Fraley with Malden & Jenkins in the audience with us. And I'd like to thank Adam for working so closely with the city staff, specifically accounting, for reviewing our transactional supporting documents, our internal control, as well as our financial systems. Malden & Jenkins has rendered an unqualified opinion. That means that our financials have been presented fairly, and they conform with accounting principles accepted in the United States. In addition to the auditor's opinion, which is included in the CAFR, tonight I'll discuss the statement of activities for the governmental type activities, the business type activities, as well as component units. I will also cover financial highlights as identified in the CAFR, discuss some of the fund balances, as well as an overview of the findings. I'll begin tonight talking about assets and liabilities. The net assets for the city increased by $7 million over the course of the last fiscal year. Our total net assets is $249 million. Of that, $64.3 million is unrestricted and is available for the obligations of the city. The city's bonded indebtedness decreased by $12.25 million. The outstanding GO bonded and obligations are $9.9 million. That's 2.1% of the legal debt limit. It is $127 per capita. In comparison, the federal government's per capita debt is $52,500. Our governmental activities revenues will be the next item that I discuss. Property taxes represent 32.85% of those revenues. Sales tax represent 23.76% of our revenues in our governmental activities. The general fund revenues were $1.4 million more than we budgeted. That's a 2.4% variance. Our governmental activities expenditures include 39% for public safety and 20.13% for public works, which includes public works and transportation. The general fund expenditures were 2.3 million less than budgeted. That's a 4.1% variance. Regarding our general fund, we also have a stabilization policy which requires 25% to be set aside for emergency reasons. That amount equates to $13.5 million. At the end of FY12, or fiscal year 12, we have $7.18 million above the policy. The general fund ended 2012 with $3.6 million more than we anticipated in the budget. Moving from our governmental type activities to our business type activities, which includes our enterprise funds, water fund, solid waste fund, stormwater fund, as well as rec participation. The net assets increased by $1.9 million. The solid waste revenues decreased by 11.9%. That's a result of the reduction in the fee structure when we created the stormwater fund. The stormwater fund ended FY12 with $1.2 million in net assets. Additional highlights included in the CAFR is related to our debt, our defined benefit plan. We are funded at 83.1%. Comparing that to Atlanta, Atlanta's defined benefit plan is 51.2% funded. The largest taxpayer and employer in Roswell is Kimberly-Clark. They employ nearly 1,300 employees. 97.43% of billed property taxes were collected during the fiscal year. In contrast to previous fiscal year, we had minimum findings in this year's audit. They were related to the accruals in our water fund as well as our group benefits fund. There were no findings in our general fund, which last year was related to collateralization, bank reconciliation, and budget. I think that's a marked improvement from the previous year. The findings this year is related to the accruals of our unbilled revenues in the water fund as well as the booking of an expense in our group benefits fund. I think this to wrap up, this year's CAFR shows an improvements in our internal controls, that the city operated within the appropriated budgets. As a highlight, the general fund ended with $3.6 million more than we anticipated. The Stormwater Fund was successfully implemented. The Solid Waste Fund used $68,000 in fund balance as a result of the restructuring of our fees. The Rec Participation Fund added $424,000 to fund balance. Our net assets for governmental activities increased by $5 million. The business type activities net assets increased by $2 million. Revenues came in as expected. Expenditures were below budget. We have an unqualified opinion. We have minimum findings. I'd like to thank the mayor and council. I'd like to thank Administrator Lowe, the department heads, the accounting staff, and the staff of the city for being good stewards of the city's funds. I think it's important to recognize the efforts made to utilize those funds that we take from the public for appropriate uses. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Does the council have any questions? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments regarding the annual financial report? Yes, sir. Come forward, please, if you'll give us your name and address. Our city administrator reminded me we have time limits of 5 minutes for public comments.
Lee Fleck, Martin's Landing. In light of last year's less than stellar financial report and the fact that this report has taken such an extensive amount of time, over 8 months, to finalize, and because I don't wish to once again be the individual who has to expose any financial irregularities, I would like Mr. Lee to go over the auditor's overview. I want all the sections that they've highlighted. You can abbreviate them. We'll bring the auditor up to give me a full explanation of their final analysis. Thank you.
The auditor's opinion letter that's in this CAFR is unqualified, meaning that our financials were presented fairly and in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. There are 2 findings. They're at the end of the CAFR on pages 105 and 106. It has to do with revenue and accrued liability reporting, the internal controls related to the method in which we accrued unbilled revenues in the water fund, as well as the way that we accrued sewer fees that we dispersed to Fulton County. The second has to do with the way that we posted a payment for our insurance in a fiscal year and had to be a journal entry to a previous fiscal year, to the current fiscal year.
Have we, since receiving these findings, have we adjusted our process and our accounting methods to account for these findings?
Yes, sir, we have. We have adjusted the spreadsheet that we utilize for unbilled revenues to account for the appropriate percentage that we should be accruing in the prior fiscal year. And we are doing additional reviews of invoices as we close out the fiscal year.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? This does not require a vote. It was just a report. Councilmember DePolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to point out a couple things. One is the net assets is a pretty good measure of the financial strength of the city, and the fact that our net assets are up $7 million in 1 year is a real positive for the city itself. And one thing that Mr. Lee did not go over, but is also would be of interest to the public, is that we have $2.4 million in grants and federal awards that were applied toward capital improvements this year. So we're doing a good job of going out and finding opportunities to leverage our taxpayer dollars and to use federal funding to help supplement what we're doing.
If you'll call the next item, Mr. DePolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item is approval of a resolution to provide notice and intent to sell bonds in the aggregate principal financial amount of approximately $10 million. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, sir. What you have before you tonight, Mayor and Council, is a resolution declaring our intent to issue general obligation bonds in an aggregate principal amount of approximately $10 million. As you're aware, the city called for and held an election on November 6, 2012, where the majority of the registered voters voting in that election approved issuing bonds up to $14.7 million. Those bonds were for transportation, recreational activities, as well as a fire station. This notice of intent would be provided to prospective underwriters and purchasers. They would submit their bids in a competitive environment, due back to our financial advisor on March 11th or thereabouts. The award will be made to the proposer with the best and lowest true interest cost to the city.
Could you remind the audience which of these projects would be funded through this $10 million this year?
In this particular funding, it will be the fire station, it will be Holcomb Bridge Road, Eves Road, the synthetic turf fields, and the multi-use trail on Holcomb Bridge Road.
Do we anticipate issuing another $4.7 million next year?
Yes, sir. We will issue an additional $4.7 million, approximately $4.7 million next year after July 1.
What interest rate range are we anticipating having to pay?
Between 1.4 and 1.8 in true interest cost.
Does the council have any questions? Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
I would like Mr. Leader of this council to go on record that when you're talking fire station, you're talking specifically about fire station number 4. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito to approve the resolution. Is there a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Orlins. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This time we'll call upon Councilmember Nancy Diamond, liaison to our Community Development Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for TowerCom, VLLC, wireless facility at 10185 Sway Branch Drive, land lot 501-502, and Jackie Dybel is here to tell us about it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we have a wireless facility located at 10185 Sway Branch Drive for Metro PCS, located in land lots 501 and 502. The applicant is requesting a 150-foot monopole tower with a 4-foot lightning rod attached to the top. The plans for the tower indicate that there will be 5 carriers located on this tower. This is an aerial of the location of the property. To the north of Bridge Road, you have not on the microphone enough. Sorry. To the north, you have Holcomb Bridge Road. You have an office. You also have an office building with retail. South of the property, you have residential homes that are zoned commercial, and all the homes on Sway Branch Road are commercial properties. As you can see from the zoning map here, the property is zoned C3, which is commercial. This is a map showing the locations of the existing cell towers to indicate that they are over the 2,500 feet mark. In order to do a cell tower, you have to be at least 2,500 feet away. So the closest one is 2,600 feet. This is the proposed site plan. This is the monopole tower that they are looking to build on the property. It shows the 5 carriers. It's 150 feet. The staff asked the applicant if they could do an alternative tower. And the applicant came back and sent us some proposed simulations of what some cell towers could be here. So I've got some drawings here. The first one is a 150-foot monopole, a view of that, what it would look like. The second one is a 150-foot monopine. It's possible that you could do a 150-foot monopine at this site. The next one here is a 150-foot unipole. The unipole over here, it's like a flagpole, but there's no flag on the top. The bottom picture shows a 175-foot unipole. This is another view. This is standing at Warsaw Road, looking at the site. There's the top picture shows a 150-foot monopole. The bottom picture is the monopine. The top picture, once again, is a 150-foot unipole. And the bottom one is a 175-foot unipole. The applicant has indicated to staff that in order to do the 5 carriers that they would like to have on the pole, that if council chose to do a stealth tower, they would need 175 feet, which would require a variance based on Section 21.2.5 of the City Code, because in the C3 zoning districts, the height limitation is 150 feet. However, they would like to do a 175-foot tower or unipole, and in order for that, you would need to grant a 25-foot variance.
So it's my understanding if it's a monopole, they're okay with 150 feet.
Correct.
If it's a unipole, they need 175 feet.
Correct.
So either way, they're okay with.
Yes. If they do the unipole, in order to stack the antennas, they need additional 25 feet to get 5 carriers.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions?
I was going to...
Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Dybel, it's my understanding that there was a cellular antenna in the Prudential building next door to this. Is that
There is
correct?
an antenna on the Prudential building, yes.
Okay. Now, why is that not included in the distance?
What
Map.
we did in our map were cell towers. That is not a tower, it's an antenna.
Okay.
The
How does it-
requirement is 2,500 feet from a cell tower.
That's
that-
the way the ordinance reads?
Yes.
Did
Go ahead.
Did the applicant attempt to locate on that building?
I have indicated to the applicant that you would like that answered, and I believe they are here this evening and will be able to answer your question.
Okay.
Before any other questions, I just want to finish real quick. I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize for
That's okay.
interrupting.
We recommend approval with 3 conditions. The applicant did indicate to me if these are the conditions approved, the words Metro PCS need to be stricken, and instead of Metro PCS, they would like TowerCom in both conditions numbers 2 and 3, instead of Metro PCS. And that is my presentation for this evening.
Any other questions from council? This time we'll hear from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, members of council. My name is David Kirk. I'm with the law firm of Troutman Sanders, 600 Peachtree Street, Northeast in Atlanta, here representing TowerCom. With me this evening is Mr. Chip Bullock, who's TowerCom's vice president, Mr. Joe Pelmore, who is a radio frequency engineer with Metro PCS. Also here in the audience this evening is the property owner, Ms. Jerry Hilliard, and her son, Jimmy. TowerCom is a company that's based in Jacksonville, but has an office here in Atlanta that's headed by Mr. Bullock. We work closely with telecommunications carriers to identify, evaluate, and develop sites for telecommunication towers. Our anchor tenant on this site would be Metro PCS. In the area surrounding the subject property, Metro PCS has identified a significant service deficiency. With their input and support, we've identified this location as the most appropriate one to serve their customers' needs. I'll answer Mr. DiPolito's question, if I may, as I move forward with the presentation. Metro PCS is looking to provide coverage over a broader area, and I think I can hit Elmo there. This is the radio frequency propagation study that was done by Metro PCS for this site, indicating that Metro PCS is on virtually every tower surrounding the site, but what they have is a significant gap in coverage. What they're looking to do, Council Member, is to provide service to cover that gap, to close that gap as much as possible. that can simply not be done on the top of a roughly two-story building. We've looked at that location, and our interpretation of that site is it is meant to provide some capacity relief solely in the Holcomb Bridge corridor. An analogy would be they're using essentially a spotlight or a flashlight to provide some very targeted service in that area, whereas what this facility does is really essentially light up the stadium, if you will. So you can see pretty significant difference there with the red and the blues indicating the areas of poor coverage, and then being replaced by the green indicating much improved coverage in that area. And there's a very significant difference between a capacity site and a coverage site, and this is a coverage site. The staff report recommends approval of what we call the unipole design, and recommends further that the height be increased to 175 feet to accommodate the same number of tenants. And the reason for that is a unipole, obviously you do not have the antennas on the outside of the pole itself. They're hidden. And so instead of being stacked horizontally, as you would on a typical tower, they're stacked vertically, and that limits the number that can be placed. This will show you here. Is there any way to back out on that? I think that'll show it just fine. You can see here, this is a simulation that was done for us of a 150-foot monopole versus a 175-foot unipole. The monopole has 5 carriers on it. You see the antennas are mounted horizontally, so you have typically 9 antennas at each of these locations. What we would have to do is require the carriers to stack their antennas vertically, and there's simply not enough room inside the canister to put 9 antennas around at the same location. So they would have to be sort of curlicue around the interior of the pole, and therefore we'd have to have some additional height in order to essentially provide the same level of service and make the tower feasible for co-location, which is what your ordinance certainly encourages, and what the industry's preference obviously is to co-locate. We have obviously Metro PCS here to answer specific questions about radio frequency, but they are committed to being our anchor tenant on the pole. Mr. Bullock has had conversations with a number of other major carriers, and they are very interested in as well as locating here. As the staff report indicates, the proposal before you meets all applicable development code requirements. We've read the staff report and the proposed conditions. We're in agreement with the conditions. However, as Ms. Dybel said, we'd like to suggest that instead of having Metro PCS, because they're going to be a tenant on the tower, they will not be they're not the applicant, they're not the developer of the tower. We could either just simply strike Metro PCS, or we could strike and insert TowerCom. I'm sorry?
The issue, if there is an issue.
I understand. I'm just making that. I'm just making that clear.
Yes, sir.
We're happy to answer any questions. That, in a nutshell, is our proposal. We're trying to meet a clear need in an area with significant demands and significant unmet demands. Metro PCS is utilizing existing towers in the area already, yet there's still a gap in their service. The proposal has been fully evaluated by your staff and found to meet all code requirements. We've agreed to incur the additional cost of the stealth structure, but need that additional height to provide equivalent capacity. And we're committed, obviously, to designing, building, and operating this in a safe manner in accordance with all of the federal requirements that we're required to follow. Accordingly, just respectfully request that you accept the recommendation of your staff and approve the draft resolution that's before you in your packets. Appreciate your attention. Team and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilman Orlins. Could you still do a unipole in 150 feet with perhaps 4 carriers on it? Is 5 a magic number?
Well, I mean, we want to support your goal of having co-location possible by as many carriers as possible. 150-foot unipole simply does not provide the capacity to make it financially feasible, quite frankly. You're going to get, after you get 1 or 2 carriers on there, the other carriers are going to be so low that they're going to look for other alternatives, and they may even be in here before you asking for another tower when simply by adding 25 feet to this one we can accommodate them.
So you're saying that 4 is not financially feasible, 5 are?
I doubt we could get 4 on a 150-foot unipole. I mean, if we want to go by sort of hierarchy of preference, just for the council's benefit, from strictly our perspective, our preference would be a 150-foot monopole. After that would be a 175-foot unipole. After that, quite frankly, would be the 150-foot monopine, because you can mount antennas on the outside of a monopine. It simply has the artificial limbs to mask the antennas in this area, as the photo simulation that Ms. Dybel showed. And then the 150-foot unipole, quite frankly, we may not, if that was approved, that may be essentially a de facto denial.
Okay, great, thank you. Other questions? Councilmember Price.
I know that there's a rule of the height not being from a residential area of the distance, the height of the tower. And I know across the street, although it's zoned commercial, they're actually, I believe, private homes. So I don't know if we're considering that residential for the purposes of the tower height.
I think Jackie might be in a position
I think that's
to
a question
answer
for...
No, it is Zone C3, so we have to consider the zoning because due to the C3, and we don't look at them as residential structures because they are Zone C3.
Does the council have any other questions? Councilmember Diamond.
Mr. Kirk, can you explain why now? I mean, has there been a change? Has there always been a spot here that you haven't had coverage? I mean,
Metro PCS, like all the other carriers, and I actually represent another major carrier. I'm here representing TowerCom, but if Metro PCS is like all the other carriers, they have a budget. And every year they have a list of sites that they want to try to build within that budget. And depending upon factors such as zoning and the difficulty of finding a landlord or finding an appropriate piece of property, those sites may or may not get built. So I imagine, and we can ask Mr. Palmore how long this has been an issue, but we work very closely with them to identify where they have gaps. Not every gap can be addressed, obviously, and sometimes it takes a lot of digging to find an appropriate location. And what we think we have here, and what we believe we've demonstrated here, is this is an appropriate location.
I guess I thought my phone had found all the dead spots in Roswell, and that's one area I've never had a problem. Now, is there some kind of backup generator or some other provision for power?
That's typically up to the individual carriers how they handle that. Some will handle it with battery backup. Some will handle it with a generator that's a diesel type generator.
So would there be any fuel storage on the site?
I'd have to ask.
For the record, if you give us your name and address before you answer the question.
Joseph Pelmore. We're located off Gateway Boulevard in Norcross. The council member. Our backup system is based on battery. We don't have any fuel at the site. Everything is within code.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you.
At this time, we'll entertain any questions or comments from the floor. Does anyone in the audience wish to have any questions or comments regarding this application? Yes, come forward, please, if you'll give us your name and address.
Hi, I'm Allison Sturm, and I'm a property owner on Sway Branch Avenue. And this is David Sturm, also property owner.
Y'all live there or just property owner?
Property owner.
Okay. And where do you reside?
And off of Coleman in Pine Needle subdivision.
Thank you.
On Sway Branch, there are residential houses, as was mentioned. It's been zoned commercial. A stormwater facility has been placed there, and there's a water feature, I'm not sure what it's called, behind the street, behind all the houses. So already the area is being encroached upon for homeowners to be able to sell these properties. And you have to forgive me, I'm not a good public speaker. And now with the area more being encroached upon, more businesses, there's less property for businesses to grow there, which means less chance for the residents who own those properties to sell them. Every one of the property, not everyone, the majority of the properties have been up for sale within the past 5 years, and none of them have sold except the one we purchased. And with the idea that they was going to be sold commercially because it's a C3 property, and now I just see the land shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and there's just not going to be anything for business owners to purchase, and already the homeowners can't do anything about it. So I would like to ask that we not put a cell tower there so we have at least a fighting chance to sell these properties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to comment or anyone else have any questions? Come forward, please, if you give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Sasha Pirtz. I live on 5000 Victor Ridge Lane, which is right behind where the proposed tower is supposed to be built.
My name is Beth Harvey. I live in Victory Ridge Lane on 5060. I'm less than 50 yards from the proposed cell tower. I am the proximate neighbor immediately behind the neighborhood where the cell tower is going up, and that very lot.
My name is Todd Hugo, and I live on Lauren Court in Victory Ridge subdivision around the corner from Beth here, and we're all in the same situation where most of our subdivision can easily see where the tower is going to be put at. So naturally we have a concern what this is going to do to our property values, the overall appeal to the neighborhood. In addition, I would like to know what type of study has been done along those lines to determine exactly what it's going to do to our property values and potential to sell in the future. And for the record, we're in ground zero there. I don't have any problem with my cell phone service in that area. So.
And I don't either. And just to clarify his point, is there any risk? I mean, we have children in the neighborhood, so we're concerned about people coming to look at it and seeing something 150 feet. The balloon itself, I wasn't there to see it, but the height is just extraordinary. Even to make it a pine tree at 150 would be, still pretty much an eyesore, much less 175 feet. So I guess our concern is health and RF implications to families living nearby, and just the visibility from our property and the potential impact on our value.
Appreciate those concerns. I think there was a question, has there been study of property values? We're not aware of a study. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bassam Mashal, and I am a Roswell resident, and I am here on behalf of ILM Academy. It's a school that's just acquired the building on 1200 Grimes Bridge Road. And unfortunately, we just found out about this case here today, and I was obligated on behalf of the parents to come and represent the school since I serve on the governing board of the school. Our school consists of about 120 students today, and shortly enough when we move into the building, hopefully in August, we will be having somewhere around 150 students. So given the health risk and debate about radio frequency issues and the fact that we will be having that many children up to the age of 10 years of age is really a concern for the school, and we just wanted to come here and state our concern and leave it up to you to make a decision on this. However, from the little research that we've done so far, we have found out that there is about 85 towers within less than 2 miles from where the site that's being proposed today. And this is really a concern that should be for everybody and the children and the families that are living close by. So I ask you to consider our appeal and do the best when you make your decision. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to comment? I'm not seeing any hands up. We'll close the public comment section. I will give the applicant the opportunity to respond. I think there are some issues about whether or not this council can consider the health risks. I think there's some authority on that.
I think the authority is probably your city attorney and the Telecommunications Act of 1996.
But if you would, for the benefit of the audience and the council, you might remind us of that.
I'd be happy to. In fact, I have a handout that I'd be happy to give to the members of the council. But we have wireless devices and generator facilities like this have to adhere to very strict radio frequency emission guidelines that are established by the Federal Communications Commission. Because of that, under federal law, state and local governments are prohibited from regulating the placement, construction, or modification of wireless facilities on the basis of presumed environmental effects having to do with radio frequency emissions. What you can do is require us to, and all the carriers that come onto this tower, to adhere to FCC emissions guidelines. Radio frequency emissions that are generated from wireless facilities are typically much lower than the standards that are set forth by the FCC. And there's no credible scientific evidence that radio frequency emissions from wireless facilities such as this have any sort of adverse health or environmental effects. That's been the conclusion of the World Health Organization. That's been the conclusion of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, as well as the Office of Engineering and Technology at the federal level. Is that a sufficient? Did I address that sufficiently, Mr. Mayor?
For my purposes, I'm not sure we're here to poll the audience.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see.
Another question that was raised, I think one of the adjacent property owners was concerned about use of the property, and they talked about shrinking commercial area. Is this property going to be dedicated solely to this cell tower, or is this possibility for other uses on this lot? And maybe that's addressed to the owner.
Our intent is to use it solely for purposes of the.
Are you all leasing the entire lot?
We are purchasing it, right? We're purchasing the entire lot, sir.
And the size of this lot?
Jackie, what's the size? The tower compound itself is only 2,500 square feet.
How much area is in the lot, and how much area is this tower compound?
The lot itself is over half an acre, so that would be roughly 25,000 square feet. We'd be using about 5,000 square feet, or 2,500 square feet, excuse me, for a 50 by 50 tower compound.
So about half of the lot.
Significantly less than half, actually. 2,500 versus probably about 10% of the lot.
10% of the lot. Do y'all intend to place this on the front of the lot or the rear of the lot?
No, toward the back. If you're familiar with the lot, and it's wooded on the back side, it's open on the front side. It was formerly a residential lot.
I think the concern is taking property off the market and having a vacant lot on a commercial street. I'm seeing if there's some way to address that, to address the concerns of the commercial property owner.
It would be in the back of the lot there. And I don't know. I mean, we develop towers. We don't develop commercial space. I suppose you could possibly put something toward the front eventually. We have no plans to do that at the moment. And that would probably have to be done by somebody else.
But if there was profit to be made and it didn't disrupt your tower, you wouldn't object. Your applicant probably wouldn't object.
Probably would not object.
Thank you, sir. Does the council have other questions? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming when I was hearing that the encroachment of some properties already, I'm assuming that's the detention pond. I think probably Kay could answer this question for me. Ms. Love, wasn't that the detention pond that we actually was filling detention pond, and we went in there and purchased that land to rehabilitate that, and then plus we bought some land to punch through Sway Branch to Marketplace. Am I correct? Is that the only encroachment?
Yes, a portion thereof, and the detention pond was a joint project with the Corps of Engineers, and Mr. Moore, you can correct me if that's incorrect. He's nodding yes.
So I think when I'm hearing that this encroachment, that was an existing detention pond that was failing, and we went in there and rehabilitated that detention pond. Am I correct?
Right. We made an investment and we improved it.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Diebold, do you know the distance between the site of the, I'm going to throw you a curveball here, sorry, the site of the cell tower and where the proposed private school's going on Grimes Bridge? I'm assuming that's the old post office, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of approximate.
Good.
An aerial view we had done earlier. It's around 1,500 feet. Oh, sorry. An aerial view showing the proposed site here in red, and it's around 1,500 feet. Here is 1,200 Grimes Bridge Road, so 1,558 feet.
Okay, and the distance from the tower itself to the people that live off of Lauren Court? I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the subdivision, but I think I heard somebody say they lived on Lauren Court. Vickery Ridge. 5060 Vickery Ridge. 5060 Vickery Ridge.
I'm actually in the picture.
5060 Vickery Ridge. I don't know if that's one of the...
I've got it. I apologize for the resolution there. The tower is located here. It's approximately 200 feet from the front of the lot, and the surveyor has indicated it's over 490 feet to the nearest residential zoning classification.
Do we have a better, like an aerial, so I can see where the lot is of the 5060 Vickery Creek versus that site, please?
You probably
that doesn't help me. 4, 5, and 6?
That's probably better.
Approximately.
So here's our here's our property site. The tower's sitting in the back.
Okay.
So Sway Branch, these are properties on Sway Branch, so they're Zone C3. But here's the closest house, 5060.
Okay, so actually that house is across Sway Branch behind some C3 and then that house, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
what got us started on this, looking at a stealth design, was in fact a communication from Ms. Harvey suggesting that we use some sort of stealth treatment as well. I believe she works for AT&T and so is familiar with stealth treatments. This is actually a telecommunications tower in a jurisdiction where there is a pencil factory right across the street, so that's appropriate. But that was her suggestion, so I'm a little confused why she's now against the tower, period.
We're not hearing, I will take that as a rhetorical question, and we're not hearing
That
more
is a
from the
rhetorical
audience.
question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Price.
I know we've got an ordinance about the distance that the pole has to be from residential, and I guess I'm curious as to why we don't have a similar distance from commercial or any other place where a person might be. And I'm concerned also, I know something I read in the packet here, that these are rated up to, 90-mile-an-hour winds. I'm not sure how many times we've had gusts or any winds any higher than that, and I know they're supposed to break off, and I'm not sure whether that thing supposedly falls straight down or falls a greater distance away, but what is the history on these towers in a bad weather?
They're actually quite resilient. I keep trying to get the picture from Doug Dillard, but he won't give it to me, of Dunwoody after the tornado came through several years ago. The trees are all torn apart, the homes are all torn apart, but yet the monopole is still standing. We have had engineering analysis done both on the 150-foot monopole and I provided information to Ms. Dybel this afternoon. We had an engineer look at the design for the 175-foot unipole, and they use a design that has essentially a weak point at some point on the structure itself, so that if it is subjected to extreme conditions, and by extreme conditions I do mean a tornado that would obviously have much broader impact on the community, they're designed to bend at that weak point, and both in terms of the monopole that we originally proposed and the 175-foot unipole, that bending would still, the tip of the tower would still be within the boundaries of the parent tract of that parcel, and would not fall onto adjacent properties.
Are there any guide wires, or is it sunk into cement?
This has a foundation. It's a building, so it's an engineered structure. The plans would be reviewed by your building department they'd be prepared by a registered professional engineer, just like any other structure in the city has to be. So this would have a concrete foundation. And would be entirely self-supporting. There would be no guy wires on this type of tower. There is a type of tower that has those guy wires. Those are typically much taller, like the WSB tower in downtown. That's close to 500 feet tall.
Any other questions the council may have? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Davidson, question for you. I'm looking at just a segment of the code. I just want to clarify. It says our maximum tower height is 150 feet and 4 users. So the request is for 175 feet and 5 users?
Their request is for 150 feet. But that is a monopole structure that they're requesting. If the council would like the antennas on the inside, they need to go to 175 feet for the unipole.
But I guess my point is the way our code is written, it's a limitation of 4 users. So the 5 is really irrelevant, is it not?
The 4 is, we want to encourage co-location.
Right.
So the 4 was, if you go to 4, you can go up to 150 feet. We just didn't go up 5, you can go to 175 feet. That's why the 5 is not in there. It's not a limitation on the number of users.
It's a minimum rather than a maximum?
Right. It was It was how high we were willing to go.
So what was the intent of the code was to go up to 150 feet for 4 users?
Correct. And we didn't address 5 users because 150 was.
Yeah, Mr. Diploid, if I could give you my recollection of it, the intention is to try to limit the number of towers in the city. So the intention was if we could put 100 on one monopole at 150 feet, we would have. The intention was by putting the number 4 in there, saying if you want 150 feet, you need to have at least 4, not more than 4. The intention was if we could have gotten 10 on 150 feet, 50 on 150 feet, we would have supported it. So in the way it was was not written as a limitation. It was written as a minimum to say if you want 150 feet, you're going to have 4 folks, at least 4 on there. If we could have gotten 5 or 6 or 10, we would have been happy with that.
Okay, thank you. I have a question also for the applicant. Has there been any study done to determine what other carriers are potential users of this? You mentioned that there were...
Mr. Bullock meets on a regular basis with the other major carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. There is interest from all of them. Was I accurate there? And he meets every Friday. Is it? Just interest with other carriers.
Hi, Chip Bullock, 6040 Overlook Park Drive, Cumming, Georgia. I do meet with most all of the 5 carriers on a regular basis and show them all the sites that I'm working on, and there is significant interest from the other carriers for the site.
So you're fairly confident that you'll have 5 carriers?
Eventually, and as Mr. Kirk mentioned, it depends on where their budgets fall, but I would think 3 to 4 within the next 2 to 3 years is my projection.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Diamond.
We have this analysis of the coverage gaps. Is that something that's certified by some independent group? I recognize your engineer created that, but how does that get certified by a non-interested party?
You're talking about just so... What we have in the application is actually a signed affidavit by the manager of radio frequency analysis for Metro PCS. They're not professional engineers in terms of a seal. Some of them are, but typically a radio frequency engineer is a trained professional who has a background in electrical engineering or something similar, and they input data from information regarding customer complaints, drop calls. They're able to track all that data as well as utilize a computer model that simulates. This is a simulation. It's not perfect. That simulates the effect the proposed tower would have on their system.
Can I ask a couple questions of our legal department here in the form of David? Is there a requirement to prove need and coverage?
This one is actually allowed in the C3 zoning.
Okay.
So.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which is if it meets all the criteria, other than we always hear you can do whatever you want, the reality is what is our position or our flexibility here, if it meets the criteria set forth in the ordinance?
There is a criteria about how it looks, the aesthetic value of it, but that's legally pretty weak if that's what you're going to base everything on. So if they meet all the criteria except for that one, I would recommend approving it. How you want it camouflaged would be a decision for the council.
So we have more to say about what it looks like than if it is. Okay. Can we require removal upon the end of its use?
can make that a condition, I guess.
Just so I understand, you're saying if we no longer need cell towers and they no longer use this for cell tower transmission, they would have to remove the tower?
Right. And could we require that they don't store fuel on the site?
If they said they don't, so I think that would be a good condition to put on there.
Okay. And is there, and I'm not sure who this is to, but I noticed there's probably some tree removal here. Is there going to be some replacement in that area since you've got quite a bit of space?
Yes, ma'am. One of the conditions is that the landscaping plan would be approved by the Design Review Board and the city arborist. You do have actually, make sure I'm right here. Well, you do have a removal, in your ordinance, you actually have a removal provision that requires removal of improvements if they're abandoned, if I'm reading that correctly.
Okay. And is there potential, do you think, for some kind of pocket park in the parts of that lot that aren't used?
I mean, there'll certainly be landscaping. That's something we're not prepared to answer tonight, but certainly I think something that could come up in the discussions with the Design Review Board should you see fit to approve this. We'd have to look at issues related to safety and security of the facility itself. We have to look at ingress and egress to make sure that that's not hindered. In the event there needs to be some emergency service done on it, and the regular, typically a carrier will have to have access to it on basically once every month or two for just sort of standard maintenance.
There could be a dog park or some little area there. Is that something that you guys have considered at all?
I think we could certainly look at that. Again, I think that would be a discussion that we could have in more detail, excuse me, with the Design Review Board.
Councilmember Diamond, what I was hearing from the commercial property owners is they wanted more commercial presence there and less green space, and normally I'm a big green space supporter, but given the circumstances of Sway Branch, anything that we can do to encourage the development of Sway Branch as a useful commercial corridor we have, and which the council has been supportive of in the past, and Mr. DiPolito's connection of Sway Branch, making it through street, was a major point to sort of improve the marketability of that property for commercial use.
What I'm hearing is between security concerns and access and stuff, it would be very difficult to put a commercial enterprise on that lot. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but if we're going to have...
You potentially could, and there is still, I mean, if we go back to the zoning map, there's still a significant amount of commercial property that's there, and quite frankly, having good cellular or wireless reception is helpful to that sort of development, because you have so many folks that are operating in a wireless environment now. About a third of the households in Georgia are completely wireless.
Councilmember Diamond, I could imagine, knowing the concerns we have with parking in other areas, that this could be potentially developed in concert with an adjacent piece of property. Simply putting parking on the front part of a lot with proper landscaping to help have a more commercial square footage on the adjacent lot. So I could see a potential in the future for a cooperation between property owners and as a win-win situation on a commercial development. Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along those lines, I think one of the barriers to any future use of the lot is the way the easement is located right now. And I guess what mitigates that somewhat is that the applicant is also going to be the property owner, so they can probably relocate that easement at some point. But having an easement running essentially down the center of the property pretty much eliminates the use of the property for other purposes. Now, if you wanted eventually to use it for commercial, for a park, or for some other parking type use, if the easement ran along the one property line toward the back of the property, that would certainly make it much more usable.
Other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Diamond, I believe we're ready for a motion.
I guess I do have one question for the neighbors. I think what we're looking at here is 150 feet of cell tower looking pole or 175 feet of something, and as Ms. Harvey had articulated to us a while back, at that point, are we better off with something that doesn't look so much like a cell tower? Is there any kind of consensus among the neighbors as to what kind of pole, if we are seemingly in that position? Yeah, that just doesn't look like a tree to me.
I appreciate Councilmember Diamond's reaching out to the audience. Councilmember Diamond,
going around
if
the
we'd like a
system,
response,
sorry.
you need to come to the microphone for the record.
Okay.
And at Councilmember Diamond's request, we'll open it back up for comments on this point only.
Hi, Beth Harvey. The visibility from our neighborhood and the enjoyment from our decks and our property, obviously we don't want anything higher than would potentially be proposed and approved, and that's why I sent the email with at least alternative ideas to camouflage the pole, whether it's a pine tree, the example he pointed out. There may be other options of what this thing could look like.
The options which have been presented to us tonight is a 175-foot unipole, a 150-foot monopole, which has arms coming out of it, or a pine pole at 150 feet with fake limbs coming out of it. What would be your preference?
Yeah, the
of those three
150-foot pole
alternatives?
with fake pine. I mean, I've seen it on
You'd rather
Lennox
have
off
the
of
fake little
400.
leaves coming out. That would be your preference.
Yeah. I've seen the example down on in the Lennox area.
I think you have answered Councilmember Diamond's presence. If any other members, if anyone else in the audience has a preference which they'd like to give to Councilmember Diamond, she is open for ideas.
Good evening again. My name is Sasha Perk. I definitely think that the only possible solution in my eyes would be the pine tree or a monopole. Definitely not the ugly antenna with,
So you're for the pine tree?
Pretty much, yes.
Yes, sir. We have, if you'll give us your name again.
Yes, Todd Hugo from Lauren Court, and I'm in agreement with that. From where we're located, we're far enough back. It looks like it might actually be a tree from where we're at there. So,
Councilmember Diamond, is that helpful?
Yeah, I would not have thought that, so I'm glad. I'm seeing a lot of peanut gallery, though.
Eigelhart wishes to comment.
I'm sure the mayor doesn't want us to get into a back-and-forth discussion on all this, but I'm thinking of the one that you're thinking of because you go down 400. To me, that just draws your attention to that fake tree. You know it's not a tree because it's so tall, and this would be the same thing. It's just so tall. We've got another pole over here that is the unipole. It's just right over here, and after it's been built, I don't even see that thing anymore. And it seems like the straight pole to me, because I drive by here, I live about a mile down Warsaw, and I drive by this twice a day at least. It would just seem like that straight pole
So
would go away.
at the same height of 150 feet, a straight pole you think is less obtrusive or drawing attention than one that would have...
My personal opinion, from what I've seen, yes.
Huh.
But that's why I'm...
Councilmember Eigel, I think not the full options, but the options which were put on the table for us, there was the monopole with arms coming out.
Right. And I'm saying,
Unipole at 150
I'm saying the
feet.
175.
The unipole at 175 feet,
right,
which is taller. So, I guess what you're saying is you are recommending the unipole at 175
I'm just saying
feet?
my personal opinion of just my thought from, because I did drive both recently, and this one over here you don't even see, and the fake tree down at 400, you draw your attention to that. Seems like
it never fooled me.
But
right.
I'd like to make the comment. I mean, we're not looking at it from the standpoint of coming down 400. We're looking at it from the standpoint of our properties and what it looks like, for a potential buyer possibly to come in. And the first thing they'll notice is here's this big pole off in the distance. It's like living in downtown Chicago, where I'm from, by the way. It's one of the reasons I live here now, is trying to have some nice environment where we live, But from our perspective, it looks better to have a unipine, from off in the distance. It's high enough up, it's a little bit far enough away to where it looks like it actually belongs there, to more of a degree than a single pole standing there does.
Councilmember Orleans.
Mr. Kirk or Jackie, could you put this up on the visual? One from Beth.
Right. Pencil. Give me just a moment. There we are.
Push it up higher. Councilwoman Diamond, this is what I was thinking of as the bottom second from the left at 150-foot monopole, which is one of the priorities that Mr. Kirk had said earlier. Is that kind of what residents were thinking of?
It doesn't necessarily have to, something like that. That example right there.
Now go back to the other one, Mr. Kirk.
Not the one that goes all the way to the ground, but just on the top like a real pine tree.
Yeah, I think it probably is the top. It just looks like that in the picture.
How does the bottom second from the left compare to that one that sticks up all by itself? This one looks like it has more coverage on it and goes down lower.
I don't know how high that particular
the one that sticks up by itself.
It doesn't show the base.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if it really doesn't
Might be higher.
look like you don't see any poles.
This, by the way, is the view of the balloon test from in front of her house.
So, I think it would work without standing out like the other one does, but that's just my suggestion, Councilman Diamond.
Does that have a name, or is that,
Going forward. Does anyone else wish to speak to preferences of pine trees, unipoles, or monopoles? Thank you.
Can I ask
Councilmember
one more
Diamond.
question? Is there a flashing light or anything at the top
There would not be.
at either height?
Unless it's required by the FAA, and the analysis we've done has indicated that they would not require lighting. Typically, if a tower is 200 feet or higher, it's required by FAA to be lit, and that's typically a white strobe during the day and a red beacon at night.
Is there any other questions of council? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I wanted to clarify about the height issue. I guess our code permits up to 150 feet. So the request by the applicant is 175, but
The request by the applicant is 150-foot monopole. That's what he's asked for.
What I'm hearing, Councilmember DiPolito, is he will walk away here as a winner if he gets a 150-foot pine tree. He'll be happy with that. And that's what I'm hearing from the neighbors.
Okay, and as far as I guess I'm trying to figure out the code, and I'm trying to look at the simulations here, and I think if we compare the 150-foot unipole, which is just the flagpole, to a 150-foot pine tree, I think if we put those on the screen, you'll see that the 150-foot unipole looks a lot better. I know he wants 175, but the code doesn't, he has to get a variance to get that, and that's my point.
All right, Councilmember Diamond, you've heard from everybody.
Yeah,
What happens when you ask a lot of questions? You get...
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Can we put these two up on the screen?
Which two are you wanting? If given the choice, Councilmember, between a 150-foot monopine and a 150-foot unipole, we would prefer the 150-foot monopine simply because, as I said earlier, a 150-foot unipole simply does not provide sufficient capacity to make this a commercially feasible site, in our opinion.
Okay.
Councilmember DiPolito, my concern is if we only get a couple of people on the tower at 150 feet, regardless of the commercial viability, I may end up with another tower 1,500 feet away.
Well, you can't by code.
No. 1,500 feet. 2,000 feet. I may end up with another one 2,000 feet away.
This is the last one that's permitted by code.
I guess what I'm concerned is that I'd rather co-locate as many on a tower as I can get away with.
Well, what we have on the screen is the 150-foot unipole versus the 150-foot unipine. And I think you see the unipole kind of disappears in the sky, which is kind of nice.
Councilmember Diamond.
I think the people who live with this every day need to have a say in that, and I'm a little surprised because I really thought the same thing. I thought the pole would kind of disappear, but I want you guys to be comfortable because once it's there, it's there.
We've heard from the audience. Councilmember Diamond. Unless you have another specific question, I think we've heard from the audience.
Can I ask him a specific question?
Yes, Councilman Diamond, you may.
You're really...
Come forward, please.
Can you pull that picture back where you showed the balloon from the neighborhood view?
Yes, sir.
The one here, the one.
I know. This is a key, essentially, to where photos were taken during the balloon test. And what I've shown you is number 5. And you can see, even in the wintertime, the balloon is barely visible at that height from that location.
That's at 150 feet.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
So I believe since you guys would like to put the most providers on antenna as possible, I believe that 150-foot pine tree antenna would look much better for us than another 25-feet unipole, which would be much higher and would be much more visible from where we live.
Thank you for your comments. Councilmember Diamond, back to you.
One more question. Mr. Kirk, how many do you plan to put on a 150-foot unipine or monopine?
Monopine, we could probably get 4 or 5. We could probably get 5.
Okay, so you get the same coverage. Okay, I'm going to take a
The only
stab at a
difference
motion.
between 150-foot monopole and 150-foot monopine is the camouflage and the additional cost to build it.
And would DRB be looking at what exactly the pine would look like? No?
The question was, will the Design Review Board review the limbs?
Or
the
short of
pine
that,
limbs?
would this be exactly what it would look
Are
like?
there options among the pine limbs that you can put on this?
I don't know if we can do a white pine versus a loblolly. Or, I was.
Well, I guess
I mean, there are companies that manufacture. I think there's actually a company called Stealth Towers that manufactures these things.
So there's a variety of limbs.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I would encourage y'all to bring that variety forward to the Design Review Board.
How about if we bring pictures of that variety? Because they're
That's
actually
what I
quite
mean,
quite
not the
heavy.
actual limbs. If
They're
you
actually
can
quite
bring the
heavy.
photographs and you will follow their direction on whether it's a white pine or a short leaf or long leaf, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not saying it will look like that and then it comes out, because there's that one that looks like a toilet brush that I don't really want to go with. So I just want to make sure.
You don't want it to look like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree,
There
I
you
think is
go.
what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Can I take a stab at a motion?
Please do.
Are you ready? Okay. I would move to grant approval for a wireless communication facility located at land lots 501 and 502 of the 1st District, 2nd Section at 10185 Sway Branch Road, with the following conditions. The applicant developer, Towercom, shall construct a vinyl fence with screening so the facility equipment cannot be seen through the fence. The type of fencing and color shall be approved by the Roswell Design Review Board. Number 2, the applicant, developer, Towercom, shall use trees and bushes to screen the compound area. The type of trees and bushes shall be approved by the City of Roswell Landscape Architect and the Roswell Design Review Board. Number 3, the structure will adhere to all FCC emissions guidelines. And number 4, there will be no fuel storage on the site.
We have a motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Further discussion by Councilman Orleans. You have a comment.
I would like to, with Councilman Diamond's approval, add that this picture be a preferred example offered by staff as this goes forward. Jackie, you know which one I'm talking about? This one here? So
That's acceptable to Councilmember Diamond.
Just so that it's not
So Christmas tree.
a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. It looks more like a pine tree with some limbs on it. Can that work, Mr. Kirk?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
I just wanted clarification on what photograph Councilman Orleans is referring to.
The one under the pencil.
The second from the left on the bottom.
Directly under the pencil.
Yeah, directly under the pencil, from the pencil factory.
From the email
From Beth.
Ms. Harvey?
Beth Harvey. Dated January 14th.
Thank you.
Further discussion by council before we entertain a vote. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That's Councilmember Diamond, Wynn, Eigelhart, Price, and Orleans. All opposed? That's Councilmember DiPolito. Opposed? Passes 5-1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council.
Councilmember Wynn, if you'll call your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign an amendment to the North Fulton contract with Rural Metro Ambulance Service, and this would be Fire Chief Ricky Spencer, who I'm hoping is feeling a lot better. If you're not, just stay clear away from us, okay?
Feeling much better, thank you. Mayor and Council, this is a amendment to the existing contract with Rural Metro Ambulance for ambulance service in the city of Roswell. Over the past 25 years, the ambulance service assigned by the District 3 EMS Council has required a subsidy. Since becoming fire chief in 2004, I've been adamantly opposed to a subsidy, and it's taken me 8 years to get to the point where we're not going to have one any longer. So I'd like to bring forward a few items that might interest you in the amendment on the ambulance service. The response time will be a 12-minute response time for emergency medical responses and a 15-minute response times for alpha level calls, which are calls that are not considered emergencies. In the past, we've had a maximum of 6 ambulances in North Fulton County. That's not to include Sandy Springs. And with the amendment to this contract, we will now have 9 ambulances during peak times. Rural Metro has agreed to install mobile data terminals in each Rural Metro ambulance at the cost of $300,000, and they will take care of that. This will enhance the time from the time the Roswell 911 Center receives the call until it's received at Rural Metro ambulance, which will be the same time that Roswell dispatches the call, which will increase our response time and decrease our response times. The consolidation of 911 PSAP. Right now, the city of Roswell takes the 911 call and then we dispatch the ambulance after notifying Rural Metro. In this agreement, the Roswell will give up the right to dispatch the ambulance. All dispatch ambulances will come from Rural Metro's headquarters located here in Roswell, which will expedite the process of getting the ambulance to the scene. That's an estimated cost of $100,000, and they have agreed to pay that. Transporting of public safety personnel who are injured while on duty, Rural Metro has agreed to show professional courtesy and transport the city employees, the public safety employees at no cost to the nearest hospital. And finally, what we've all been waiting for, I have, and I'm proud of it, that the subsidy will end June 30th of 2013, which cost the city of Roswell $132,250. So, thank you. So with your support, we'd like to move this forward. It has been approved, documented, torn apart, and approved by the city attorney of each city north of the city limits of Atlanta, with the exception of the mayor. I don't think you had your hands in it, but we are proud of this document. We've worked on it for almost a year now to get it completed, and we hope that you guys will approve it so we can move it forward.
Council have any questions? Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Wynn.
First of all, thank you so much, Chief Spencer. You've saved your department a lot of money, including the new fire trucks. We appreciate that. But you did make a comment. I want to make sure we have clarification. When you say rural metro is 12 to 15 minutes on response time, that's rural metro. That is not our public safety.
That is correct. Can I further explain
Yes,
that?
I would like a clarification, Scott.
You
I
sure
don't think,
can.
but I think that we're looking at 15 minutes for our response
We
time.
increased the response times from 8 to 12 minutes on emergency calls. We gave them 4 additional minutes. And the reason for that is with the consensus was that we give and they give. When the City of Roswell Fire Department gets an emergency call for emergency medical services, we have an average response time of 6 to 8 minutes. From the time we get the call till we arrive, from the time we get off the call, take our equipment and evaluate the ambulance, get the patient ready to go for any life-saving measures that we may perform, we can perform the same measures that the ambulance can, except we do not transport to the hospital. So by the time we get the call, arrive on the scene, make patient contact, take care of the patient, 15 minutes of the ambulance is sitting outside and ready to go and transport the patient.
I just want to make sure that the clarification is that our response time is 6 to 8 minutes, whereas the ambulance is 12 to 15.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions the council may have? Councilmember Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where is the actual physical location of the ambulance dispatch?
Right now, for the City of Roswell, it's located in the 911 Center at 39 Hill Street. The location of the dispatch center after this agreement is put into place will be 250 Hembry Park Drive in Roswell, Georgia, which is off of Hembry Road in the commercial district up off of Sanctuary Parkway, Hembry Road, Hembry Place area.
And that'll be one location only?
Yes, ma'am. That will dispatch for Roswell, Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Milton, and Sandy Springs.
Now, how long have we been subsidizing them?
I've been around here since 1975 in the 911 business, and I can remember as early 80s that the county subsidized the ambulance service for many, many years. In 2004, I believe the county said that they were no longer subsidizing the ambulance, and that's when we were tasked with using Rural Metro from District 3 EMS, who said they assigned the ambulances, we have to come to an agreement with them to provide the service. So at that time, the agreement was for all the cities in North Fulton County to pay $132,250 each to ensure proper and adequate ambulance service coverage by the private provider.
So can you explain to me how they're going to manage without the subsidy?
They're putting more ambulances on the street. That doesn't sound right, but it makes good sense, because they're also incorporating their general transport into the 911 system by means, instead of having 6 911 ambulances dedicated to 911 calls, we'll have 6 911 ambulances plus an additional 3 to 6 general transport trucks in the area that can be pulled to run the 911 calls. Once the 911 call threshold is reached at a minimum of 4 ambulances, then no general transports will be allowed by Rural Metro. We'll be monitoring that real close.
So are we going to be involved at a greater level or not?
We'll be involved in a lesser level.
In a lesser level?
Yes, because we're relinquishing the 911 dispatch center back to Rural Metro. We do receive reports monthly from Rural Metro on their contracted times to respond to calls, and we monitor that, and any discrepancies to that are discussed with the Rural Metro and the fire chiefs.
Now, if they don't comply or are unable without the subsidy for whatever reason to maintain this response time, there's no period of which to hold them to it. You know, is this over the year of their license or agreement, or is it over a month?
This is an annual agreement, if I'm not mistaken.
So if we had some issues with them not complying over a span of several months, we wouldn't have any recourse, because they could say, well, over the year it might work out.
Our recourse to that would be a communication with the District 3 EMS office to advise them that our contracted ambulance service is not meeting its requirements with the contract with the City of Roswell. And
So
then we
based
would
on
we would poll.
any time frame?
We would look at it over a several-month period. If we saw a pattern of times where they were not meeting their response, then we would contact District 3 EMS after we had conversation and meetings with the management of Rural Metro. Our suggestion would be, if we get into a pattern of non-compliance, then I think the fire chiefs in North Fulton County would band together, as we have to make this contract the way it is today, and poll District 3 EMS for another provider.
And they've always provided the service, is that
Rural
right?
Metro's had the contract in North Fulton since, I want to say, the early 2000s. As I said earlier, they were contracted with Fulton County to provide the service. Once Fulton County said we're no longer funding it, then it was up to the cities. The cities in North Fulton County established a organization called MROC, Emergency Medical Response Oversight Committee, and that's when we went together and decided that we wanted to continue to keep Rural Metro as our provider, but with strict rules and guidelines to go by.
Okay, there was also something in here that indicated that the funding for this would come from a federal source.
I'm not familiar with
Did I
that.
misunderstand that?
I'm not familiar with any federal source.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of council before we take a vote? Did we have a motion?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir. I move to approve the amendment to the North Fulton contract with RMA Service.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
You're out. At this time, we'll hear from Councilmember Jared Orleans, liaison to the Recreation and Parks Department.
Thank you. Item we have on the agenda tonight is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with Center Brothers, Inc. to replace the bocce ball courts at the Adult Rec Center in the amount of $30,000, and approval of budget amendment 555-62000-02-11-2013 in the amount of $30,000. And Joe's going to explain what's going on, and I'm looking for Frank Padula in the audience, and he's not here tonight.
Well, I started to invite Frank, but I think everybody's talked to him already, so I didn't bother. In the ever-growing fitness program we have at the Adult Rec Center, we're asking the council to approve the bocce ball courts. When we did the addition to the Adult Rec Center, the fitness room, we had to remove the one court that we had in the back. So we're asking to do 3 courts out front. The bocce program has grown tremendously. These courts will be developed out of concrete. It has a ADA accessible sidewalk, and the whole area is ADA accessible. Our Ramblers Club has donated quite a bit of money, not only to this, but to the fitness center itself. They're behind this particular program and event, and the bocce will be used by both the men and women of the group. We have 2 groups that are currently using the one little court that we have. They're constantly wanting to increase. They want to do league play. They want to have tournaments. There'll be open play, used for the Golden Games and a lot of other activities. This is very important to a big segment of our adult recreation center.
You have a motion. Councilmember Price, did you have a question?
Just that we deferred it in December for more data, I believe. Or why did we defer it December?
I think the deferral was based on the location with the neighborhood, looking at the site, which they have looked at, and has indicated that they have no problems with the location.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we entertain a motion? Do we have a motion?
Also, once it's in, talking to Frank, he's going to have the council all out there for a bocce ball tournament. So start practicing now. Anyway, I move for approval of item 7 as previously described. Thank you.
Motion for approval by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Further discussion by council?
Wait.
All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
This time we'll
Please
call
turn on your
for the
microphone.
liaison to the Transportation Department, Council Member Betty Price.
Thank you. The first item is the approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a design contract with McGee Partners, Inc. for the Holcomb Bridge Road westbound through lane project in the amount of $276,000 and $556. Steve Asenbrack, Director of Transportation, will give us more information.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, it's always tough to follow Joe Glover and talking about bocce ball courts, but the show must go on. This is a very important project for the city. This is one of our bond projects. This is going to be going to rebalance a network that has been out of balance for far too long. And what I mean by that is this graphic overhead here shows you Georgia 400 and Holcomb Bridge Road, and to the north is, to the top of this graphic is the north. This is our Kimberly-Clark campus. What we've had here over the years is that we have 3 lanes that go in the eastbound direction, but we only have 2 lanes that go in the westbound direction, causing significant delays, a lot of turning movement restrictions. And so what we're going to do is finally correct this by having McGee Partners design a through lane, a third through lane in the westbound direction that'll improve the old Alabama intersection, it'll improve Kimberly-Clark and Market Boulevard, and then it will terminate at the northbound ramp onto Georgia 400. We have one of our on-call firms, McGee Partners. This is a road design project which is it's just their wheelhouse. They're very good at doing this type of project. We have a very aggressive timeline in order to bring these bond projects to fruition. McGee Partners is primed and ready to go, so with your approval, we'll turn them on and get this design started.
Council have any questions? Councilmember DeFilippo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Asenbrack, this is a great project, so I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
One of the things I would like for us to see or look into is to discuss with the property owners at the corner, and I know there are several of them, but to take a look at the parking configuration and the access into each of those parcels and see if there's a way to better configure that so it works better with the road system. And I know each individual property owner is going to want their curb cut and not want to disturb that. So it's probably a tough assignment. So to the extent we could work with the property owners.
You're talking
and get
about in
their
this
feedback.
corner here?
In that corner where there's the
Right.
BP and the Waffle House and the shopping center. There's a lot of grade changes and a lot of access points, and the parking lots themselves don't work well together. So if there's a way to kind of clean all that up and help the
Yes, sir.
street environment, because what winds up happening is there's a lot of cars darting in and out onto both Alabama and onto Holcomb Bridge Road, which creates part of the problem.
Yes, sir.
So by widening it, we'll solve a capacity issue, but we're not going to solve some of those turning movements and some of those conflicts that we have from cars going in and out of that shopping center. So to the extent we can get their cooperation, that would be great. I realize it's a tall order, but if they could look into that, I'd appreciate it.
The property lines are pretty, well, they're just not our friend. They're just very complicated. The grades that you mentioned, we're fortunate that we do have interparcel access between the BP and the shopping center and the Waffle House, so that is our friend.
Right.
The Waffle House is uncomfortably close to the right-of-way now, and it's only going to be worse, but we will work with the property owners on access and make sure that we'll just apply the national standards and do the best we can to make both the through movements and the local movements work as well as they can, and that's a very tight area. There's a lot of people I know that actually go through there now because of the the merging, especially in the AM rush. Hopefully this will open that throat up a little bit and will allow some more smooth movements than are there right now, but we'll absolutely do this as part of the design process.
Thank you. Another question for you. On Old Alabama, as you head north, there are two entrances into that shopping center. Is that part of the design, or are they going to be looking at the access? As you head north on Old Alabama, if you want to make a left, I'm sorry, I didn't give you full instruction. You head north if you're going to, say, the Starbucks on the left-hand side.
Right.
There's a raised median for the first portion, but then there's some openings in those access ways. Is there a way to make all that work a little better, or is that outside the scope of this contract?
In this case, we're dealing more with the east and west movements.
Okay.
The taper really extends back through the intersection and incorporates the turn lane now into a right-through movement. I don't know that the limits of the project had actually extended up that far, but I mean, we could ask them as a courtesy to just take a look and perhaps provide us some advice on that.
Yeah, I think all of those movements impact the southbound movement on Old Alabama for people making a right.
Right.
So there's a lot more going on than just the through movement. So just wanted to call your attention to that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Price.
Yes, thank you. I know this is just a preliminary concept, but the yellow line looks like there are a number of curb cuts at the corner.
Right.
And then no curb cuts from Kimberly Clark all the way to the northbound on-ramp.
Well, there are. I mean, right. There are none in this area, but there is this service station here. There will be maintain its existing curb cuts.
Okay, great.
So that's a little, that's a little rough, but they will
So there's no intention to block them off?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion before we entertain a motion? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to approve item 8 as previously described, except I believe I had the figure incorrect. It's $276,656.
We have a motion by Councilmember
Thank you.
The next item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a change order with C.W. Matthews resurfacing contract in the amount of $273,751. Mr. Eisenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Pine Grove Road was a corridor in distress. It took us the better part of 3 years to put a series of different projects together to improve sight distance and drainage and curb and gutters and just all kinds of things. As we got into this project, we realized that it was actually in worse condition than we thought. We ended up using about 6 times more patching than we had anticipated, and so we did a great job on the engineering. As you can see in these before and after photos, we didn't do quite as good a job on the contract management. So we're asking for your support to acknowledge that we did go over budget on this. We took what you might call an unauthorized advance on next year's paving because we would have had to do this project anyway, and we did it to great standards. I think it will serve the city well, and we need to basically honor the commitment that we did by using this work and providing this service to the city and make the contract whole.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember DePolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Eisenbrack, is it possible to use funds from this year's paving contract to cover this change order? Or
Yes, sir,
where is
we
the-
are doing that.
Okay, so that's where the funding is coming from?
Well, this year's. It's actually technically next year's.
Could you explain it?
Actually,
could address that
all right,
question.
I'll
We're talking
defer to
about
the city
paving
administrator.
years versus fiscal years.
Right.
Councilmember DiPolito, the amount that is appropriated and budgeted for fiscal year 2013, there is adequate funding in that appropriation to cover this change order. Steve's talking about the paving list and that we get ready in the spring of every year to submit for our LIMIG funding with the state. So it is this year's money within the budget that has been appropriated within fiscal year 2013.
So just to clarify, this will be coming out of our citywide resurfacing account.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we entertain a motion? Councilmember
Well,
Price.
That's not entirely correct, because there are going to be hopefully some state funds available as well.
Yes, ma'am. We are looking, I did mention this in committee, but I'll reiterate it here. So Pine Grove was essentially the LIMIG, which was the statewide contract for the local maintenance improvement grant that we get every year, and we apply for it, and they give us money for that. What they do is you'll recall that LIMIG is a formula based on the population of the city and the centerline miles. It is not related to the condition of the road. So they gave us this money, and they go out and they survey the road in a cursory look and make sure that we are spending the money appropriately. So they will do a quick analysis of how much they think we need for this. When we went over budget, we went to the state and we said, hey, this road was in really bad shape. And they said, you're right, it was in really bad shape. And we said, we went over budget. And they said, well, we're sorry to hear that. And we said, is there a way that you can help us out? Knowing that the State Department of Transportation is, in fact, financially challenged. And they came back to us and said, we agree that the road was in really bad shape. Our standard of the industry is 20% overage. So they agreed to give us a 20% overage on our contract amount, which amounts to about $90,000. And I am amazed, personally. I have never heard of that being done before. I think it's a testament to our good relationship with the Georgia Department of Transportation. They found the money, and they are currently in the process of working that through their system, and I hope to be bringing a check to you at some point in the very near future for about $90,000, which will offset our share of the overage.
I think Kay wants to add to that.
Just for clarification for the record, until such time that we receive the check, the funding will be coming from the citywide road resurfacing appropriation, as I mentioned before. When the funds are received, it will offset it, but the invoice is due and payable, and we will be paying it from that funding that I mentioned before.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions? Do we have a motion?
No.
Councilmember Price does not wish to make a motion. Does any other council member wish to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is Councilman Orleans, Councilmember Eichelhart, Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember DiPolito, and Councilmember Diamond in favor of the motion. All opposed. Councilmember Price is opposed. Passes 5-1. Councilmember Price, if you'll read the next agenda item.
The next item is approval of the roadway improvement plans for the Coro development located at Highway 92 and Hardscrabble Road. Mr. Eisenbrecht.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Let me give you a quick graphic to orient you. This is a graphic showing Highway 92 and the intersection of Hardscrabble Road, and the Coral property is generally in this area, this green space. So they've come to us with a site plan, and we have commented on their site plan, and I have a quick summary of the conditions. There were 3 original conditions. One is that we were going to provide a raised median on Hardscrabble Road from Woodstock Road intersection to the second target driveway, which is generally in this area here. So allow people to still do what they're doing, but the raised median will help avoid head-on collisions. In addition, the second thing was that Coral will provide a continuous northbound turn lane, which will act as acceleration and deceleration lanes along their frontage. They have several property developments along here, and this will act for people to slow down and accelerate and to help control the movements of the cars along Hardscrabble Road. And the third one, originally we had talked about doing improving pedestrian improvements down here at the intersection of Hardscrabble and 92. We asked them to reconsider adding a crosswalk up here near Whittington Place. And what we're talking about there is something that looks like this, which is basically a little bit of a median in the middle of the road, sort of a splitter island where the pedestrians can move from one side of the road, basically do a 2-part crossing where they move, they look to the left, they cross, they go to a pedestrian refuge area, and then they're turned in the direction of the oncoming traffic, so they look to the right then, and once they clear, then they make the second part of the crossing across the road. So we talked about that because we have a plan in our Roswell Loop. Right now we're under design with the Hardscrabble Green Loop, which goes along Hardscrabble between the high school at King Road and Sweet Apple on Etris Road. And this plan is for it to eventually come down Hardscrabble Road. So the committee had asked us then to talk to the developer about our code requires a 5-foot sidewalk, but because this is going to tie into a future multi-use trail, we talked to them about a partnership with upgrading their 5-foot sidewalk to become part of the 10-foot multi-use trail system, which is about 1,300 feet long in that area. It was a great win-win, I think, for both of us. So we'll get them to build a section of the trail for us. We'll provide a financial compensation for the delta, and then we'll get a nice section of the trail, and they'll do the construction. So those are the current conditions that we have on this rezoning.
That's not a rezoning.
All right. I'm sorry. Not rezoning.
Councilmember Orleans.
Steve, would you briefly describe, as you did in committee, about the trail behind the target of why the crosswalk is going to be up there for the audience and the press?
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Orland. I don't have a graphic of the entire Roswell Loop, but as I mentioned, the trail system is going to come down on this graphic on the south side of Hardscrabble Road and cross. And our vision is, what we're trying to do is to get the people over to Lita Thompson just off of this graphic on the other side of Mountain Park Road. We are envisioning upgrading and making that part of the trail connection behind the Super Target in that wood line back there in part of their buffer. So that was why we thought that, this is a great location for the people in the Coro property and in the neighborhood to go back and forth and to access the trail, and then B, the pedestrian improvements at Hardscrabble and 92 are things that the staff can do on their own at another time, so we can basically do that as well in-house.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we entertain a motion? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Jason Brack, during the committee meeting, I had mentioned that there were some restrictions regarding the approval of these transportation improvements in the original zoning of the property. And I don't recall specifically what those were. Has anybody gone back to just make sure that we are complying with the original zoning requirements?
You know that, what that is. Well, I'll ask my deputy to see if he can recall.
Thank you.
Talking about the requirements, with the rezoning of the property?
When the property was rezoned, the transportation improvements were still unresolved. So we had a requirement. It may have just been to bring these transportation improvements back in front of council. I just don't recall specifically what that was. But I know there was a requirement to review, and there may have been some other conditions. I just don't have that information in front of me. Mr. Ludwig is signaling that he may have those. That would be great if you wouldn't mind sharing those with us.
Paul Ludwig, Coral Realty Advisors, 815 Marshview Close, Roswell, Georgia, 30076. Got the original 2009 zoning conditions. And I'll put these here and you can actually read them. Notice I've been scribbling over them, forgive me. Number 2, you'll approve the general design and the medium along that, which you're doing tonight. Number 3 had to do with the pedestrian signals, which we are now proposing to do at the mid-block pedestrian crossing. Along with that, I'm going to make an additional request that it was tied to those signals had to be in place by the first occupancy permit. Since this roadway is a roadway and the pedestrian crossing is integral to it, I'd like to see that hook removed so that we could just do the roadway, do the pedestrian crossing, and not get tied down with the occupancy permit if that's approved by you. Let's see. Again, number 4, it has to do with impact fees and payment for the median. I think number 5 at the top, has to do with adding a 4-foot bike lane, which is in the design as it currently stands. Sidewalks along the hardscrabble frontage. Originally it was a 5-foot, as Steve has said. For a portion of it, we're going to do the 10-foot multi-trail, but actually it's a 8-foot multi-trail from the crosswalk going toward the eastbound taper as much as we can, because we're limited on right-of-way right there. And then as soon as we can widen it out, it's going to 10 feet. We worked that out with staff over the last week or so. In some areas we're very tight on right-of-way to be able to give that up for the property purchasers. And I believe that is all the transportation.
Mr. Ludwig, could you go back to the condition you had a concern over with respect to timing?
Only timing that was in this had to do with, number 3, where the pedestrian signal improvements on the intersection of Highway 92 and Hardscrabble Road has to be in place prior to the first certificate of occupancy for any building in that whole development.
It says as approved by the City of Roswell Transportation Department, so are we okay from a legal standpoint?
As long as the Transportation Department approves it, you're good.
Fine with it.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments before we entertain a motion? Councilmember Eichelhardt.
In the previous discussion, I think we talked about those countdown signals and that we're still going to do those, just not through Cora's participation.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want a clarification, because I heard 8-foot path.
It's 8 to 10.
Okay, because I don't see anything that says 8 to 10. I see 10-foot multi-use path on the south side of the road.
We frequently interchange
I want to know
it.
what I'm voting on.
We're fine with 8 to 10. The issue is we want anything less than 8 foot creates problems with us from a legal standpoint.
So does the
8 to 10 is
8 to 10 in
perfectly. It's I don't know if it's written that way, but if the motion says 8 to 10 foot, we're fine with that.
Well, it's written. The reason I'm saying this is we'll replace the 5-foot sidewalk with a 10-foot use path. That's what,
I can't remember what the majority was, 10 feet, but...
It's 10, where it's tight, it'll be 8.
yeah, but again, I'm voting on a 10-foot.
It's fine with us if it's 8-10,
Okay.
then we can work with the developer to make sure that we get
Thank you.
our...
Are there any other questions or comments before we entertain a motion? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I propose, or move that we approve the roadway improvement plans for the Coro development located at Highway 92 and Hardscrabble Road to include the 4 items to be provided by the developer, including 1, the raised median on Hardscrabble Road up to the second target driveway. Number 2, adding on a continuous northbound lane on Hardscrabble Road with a series of right turn, deceleration, acceleration lanes in and out of the subject property. Number 3, in lieu of the countdown timers at the Highway 92 intersection, to put a pedestrian crossing north of Whittingham Place with a Z crossing as described, and a rapid rectangular flashing beacon on each side of the road with signage. And number 4, the 5-foot sidewalk will instead become an 8 to 10-foot multi-use path on the south side of the road to tie into the future trail system, with the delta paid by the city anything over 5 feet. And that's my motion. However, have we identified the source of the funding from the city for those extra items?
We have sidewalk connectivity funds that will pay for that delta.
And we don't know the amount at this point?
Is there a question there, Councilmember Price?
Yes, I asked where that money was going to come from.
We can use impact fee or we can use sidewalk connectivity fee, either one.
So we think there's sufficient money?
Yes, sir.
In either of these funds?
In either fund account. I can work with city administrator.
We'll come back to council for...
All right. From either of those sources.
Yes, ma'am.
Period.
We have a motion by Councilmember Price to approve the plans by Coro Development. Do we have a second?
On your microphone.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Is there anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a clarification on the motion. The multi-use path, the intention of that was only to go down to the Z crossing?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we're not requiring it the full length of the south side of Hardscrabble?
We don't anticipate, we believe that the trail is going to cross at that point and go behind the target and connect to Lita Thompson.
Okay.
And that's a better path than going all the way down to 92 and then crossing all those driveways.
I just want to clarify with Councilmember Price that that was her motion.
Yeah, thank you, to extend the length of that path to be as depicted.
Correct.
You have that picture again?
Sure.
From
So-
the crosswalk to the end of the property.
Correct. And then this will be 5-foot sidewalk down to 92.
Again, is there anyone in the audience who has any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That passes unanimously. I would like to thank Coro and our Transportation Department for bringing forward this Roswell Loop, and council for supporting that. We're making slow but steady progress toward this Roswell Loop, and I do appreciate the thoughts about taking this behind Target over to the Lita Thompson property and beyond. So it's good to see progress. All right, we have another item, two more items on transportation. Councilmember Price, if you'll call the next item.
The next item is approval of the Historic Gateway Memorandum of Agreement, MOA, with the National Park Service, NPS. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. So we have the Historic Gateway Project. Just to bring everybody else, that is our plan to eliminate the reversible lanes and to add a fourth lane in a context-sensitive way through the historic district. We need, to orient you here, I have a quick summary graphic. Here's the Chattahoochee River. Here's State Route 9. The bridge across the Chattahoochee River is 4 lanes. It enters Roswell, becomes 3 lanes. We intend for it to be 4 lanes all the way through the historic district. We are passing by the National Park Service, which is in this green area here. The Vickery Creek unit of the Chattahoochee National Recreation Area. So we need about 1.1 acres of land in order to make that 4th lane happen. In lieu of paying the National Park Service for money for that 1.1 acres, we have been in negotiations with them about a trade, an agreement where the City of Roswell will undertake certain activities and perform certain tasks within the National Park Service in lieu of payment. And that's what the MOU is. And this graphic depicts that, and I'll go through the various elements quickly for you. The first element of the agreement is that the bridges that will go over Vickery Creek shall be free span the entire stream. I have a picture of so these bridges here over Vickery Creek will not look as they do today. Here's a picture looking down the creek, and you see these intermediate supports that are in the water. They have a tendency to attract debris, trees and things, so they want us to free span the bridge across the watercourse. The second element is to incorporate enhanced erosion control measures. They're very sensitive to the area, and we agree to the enhanced erosion control measures. Third element is to remove the existing National Park Service entrance off of Riverside Drive, restore with natural vegetation, and convert it to a trailhead that includes a visible National Park Service entrance. That would be here, in this area. They want to eliminate that trailhead, and they basically want to create that as a trail, and they want to use our parking area in Riverside Park basically off. They want their parking to be out of the Park Service area. The fourth element is new trails with interpretive way signs to be constructed along both sides of Vickery Creek. Here we have area along the bank which do not currently have sort of engineered trails. They're just really paths. So we're going to reinforce that and make that part of the trail system.
These trails would go under these new freestanding
Yes, sir, they
bridges,
will.
So they don't have to cross the road.
That's correct. The fifth element is to support the long-term preservation of the Ivy Mill ruins, which is right down here in this area, through completion of cultural landscape inventory, CLI, to accurately inventory map and assess the conditions and significance of all features associated with the Ivy Mill ruins. We want to avoid significant impact to the component to features. They basically want us to make sure that we're preserving those mill ruins. Number 6, all bridges, walls, structures that potentially affect the view shed of the park shall be designed and constructed to meet National Park Service aesthetic standards. So when we talk about things like stacked stone and the color of the stone and those sorts of things that we were going to do anyway, they just want to be a partner in making sure that they're part of the design and approval process for those architectural details. The 7th element is to remove the existing National Park Service entrance, drive, and parking lot for Allenbrook. So that's up here. Currently they have a curb cut off of 9 and a little parking area. They want to close that existing curb cut. The disturbed area will be restored with native vegetation and converted to a trail. A replacement parking lot containing 15 to 20 spaces will be constructed for the Allenbrook at 275 Atlanta Street. We're currently in negotiations with the property owner now to basically take the parking. Basically, it's like if you're coming up from the south side of Allenbrook, they want you to come in from the north or the west side of Allenbrook. Again, they want to take the parking that's within Park Service property and make it external to their Park Service property. The eighth element is to conduct a thorough archaeological survey on National Park Service property to fully document and map features associated with Allenbrook, Ivy Mill, and associated trail race features along Vickery Creek to avoid unforeseen impacts during construction. Basically, it's just a reinforced archaeological survey, which is part of the environmental document anyway. We agree to do that. And then finally, additional trails from Allenbrook down to Vickery Creek with a bridge across Vickery Creek may be considered as a concept in the planning process. So basically, if you know where the Lover's Leap is, which is sort of the rock outcroppings along Vickery Creek, they want us to add a bridge across that gap and connect at that and create that as an additional part of the trail system. So for all of these elements, the National Park Service agrees to give us the 1.1 acres of land that we need. Approving the MOA at this time will avoid the risk of additional requests and or change in personnel to the National Park Service. It's taken quite a while to reach agreement on these various elements, and we want to sort of get them to, do we want to formalize this as soon as we can? The environmental document for Historic Gateway cannot be approved until the mitigation elements are identified. Also, the design effort for these elements cannot begin until the mitigation elements are identified.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First, I want to encourage the council to vote in favor of this because working with the National Park Service, with change in personnel, it becomes problematic. And while we have an agreement, let's strike a deal. My one concern is we don't know what all these things are going to cost us yet.
We have a pretty good idea, Mayor.
Well, here's my question. You know, at some point in time, if we find, let's say, we can't acquire the property which we need for the parking, or the price became really high on these bridges, I think the council needs to know what the total overall cost of all these, to meeting all these requirements is, before we have a really a firm deal. You know, I want to have a memorandum of understanding so we know the working arrangement. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
But I'm just asking our attorney is that if we find that one of these costs becomes beyond what the council would approve, do we have a way to back away from this?
Well, currently, all this is a memorandum of understanding, so it's not enforceable for it.
Right. That has answered my question, too. I don't have it's a memorandum of understanding, but it's not
a contract.
A binding contract.
Yes.
Well, under those terms, I think it's great to move ahead. Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you. I have a couple specific questions. With respect to the parking, the National Park Service charges for parking now. Is the parking supposed to be free? Has that been discussed at all? Or is there an opportunity to charge a nominal fee for parking as the Park Service currently does?
They have this sort of honor system right now in their little parking areas. My understanding is their intent on the northern side, in the Steve Allen property, we'll call it, that we're in negotiation for, is that they would like to have that same kind of honor system in that area, and then people would go down and use Allenbrook and start the trails from there. In the shared use agreement with our trail, it would not be one of those issues. I think they just want to be able to direct users of the park to co-locate, and I've talked with Mr. Glover and the Recreation Park Service about sharing that parking with us. There would not be any charging for that.
Is that charge part of this memorandum of agreement? Is that the understanding about parking, is that part of this memorandum of understanding? Or is that just something that's been discussed?
It is not
I think
locked
that needs further discussion because
Yes, sir.
if we're going to be maintaining this parking lot, If we're going to be operating this parking lot, I think we need to leave that in the discretion of our Recreation Commission as to what fees they charge or not charge, or how they collect or how they apply it. So I think if we can leave that as an unresolved issue, I think we need to leave it as unresolved, because I don't want to commit tonight to allow the National Park Service to charge for parking on our property.
The current concept, Mayor, is that there is a boundary for the park that's set by Congress. What the intent is that we acquire a parcel of land outside of the existing boundary. We acquire it at our expense. We turn it into a parking lot at our expense. At some point in time, the National Park Service is going to actually make an act of Congress to realign the boundary around that parking lot to make it part of the National Park Service boundary. Right. So at that point, but they don't want us to hold up the project, so they want us to go ahead and move forward with that, with the intent that at some point it's going to become part of the National Park Service boundary.
I would be okay with that if we're, again, if it's our property, I think we need to, and we're responsible for management, it should be under our control. Once we convey it to the National Park Service, if that's part of the deal, and I believe it's fair,
yes, sir,
then it would be
so it's just a temporary
their decision,
arrangement,
their policy, a temporary arrangement. Temporarily, we'd let the Rec Commission decide whether to charge and how much, and we'd keep it. Long term, once we conveyed it, it would be
yes, sir,
totally under their control. Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you. That answers my question. The other question I had, the two bridges that you were referring to in item 1, those are the new bridges?
Yes, sir.
Those are the proposed bridges?
Correct.
And we had planned on spanning those banks anyway, had we not?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's the sort of the standard, the state of the art of being environmentally sensitive is to not have intermediate supports in the water course for a number of reasons, but that's the way we would probably end up moving anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we weren't going above and beyond what we had planned on doing for those bridges. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Orleans.
Steve, I've got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Item number 6, and basically you're saying that we're going to be making all the surface of the bridges and the flat cements to look like we did on Crabapple Road, correct?
No, not necessarily.
Similar to
These might be enhanced. I mean, these might be real stacked stone. We had talked about kind of Blue Ridge Parkway sort of really nice, hand-laid stone, not necessarily structural, but...
So even better?
Yes, sir.
Potentially?
Yes, sir.
Good.
They've proven, our conversations, that they're very meticulous about some of these architectural details. So
good. Okay. Item 9. As you know, I've been very concerned about this in dealing with National Park Service on these items for the last 5-6 years that I've been trying to get them through here. So in item 9, where it says additional trails from Allenbrook down to Vickery Creek with a bridge across Vickery Creek may be considered as a concept in the planning process. Can you describe to me what that means, may be considered?
My understanding is that this was part of Joe Glover's master plan anyway, and that because
I wanted part of the memorandum of understanding to be in there, but not with a may be considered. That sounds very vague, and sounds like they're not really giving us the option.
We can say will be considered. It goes back to the mayor's point about funding. We really didn't have a good cost estimate. I mean, the logistics of getting a prefab bridge into that area with the cranes and everything, we hadn't really worked through all those details, but we fully intend to span that gap as part of this project.
Well, so the may be considered being on a part of the city as far as financing and so forth. I guess what I'm looking for is, the chicken and the pig. I want a commitment here from the National Park Service that they're putting their bacon into it, and we're going to get the right of way to do this trail.
Right. They didn't want to hold up They're anxious actually to get this memorandum of understanding signed as well, and they didn't want to get bogged down on the details of this particular item. So that's why they left it sufficiently vague. But I can assure you their intent is to come. We can modify this if you'd like. Would you? I mean, the mayor had suggested perhaps we put "will be considered." I think they could live with that.
Maybe, Mr. Davidson, you can look at the wording so that it kind of cements what we're looking for a little better.
Will be considered.
And then the paragraph after number 9, where it says the MOA has not been finalized to date, pending favorable conclusion of the Bull Sluice Trail project, which we've been working on for a long time as well.
Right.
And it's on track for a May approval signature date, which has not changed over the past several months. So I guess my question is, when is the signature of this MOA going to be considered done if we need to wait until May for the other Bull Sluice Trail project to be completed and signed off?
My understanding is that the Bull Sluice project has overcome all the objections and it is moving through the national park system. These are really two independent efforts, and I see no obstacles in the path of getting the Bull Sluice thing signed. I think, again, it was...
So, in other words, you can guarantee that if we sign this MOA that we're going to get that trail system done by May. Is that correct?
I can't guarantee that,
Is that
Councilman
what I'm
Orleans,
hearing you and Joe confirm here?
I can guarantee that Joe and I are just as anxious as you are to get these things done.
It'll help move all these projects along. And remember, it's just a memorandum of understanding. There's still a lot to be done to finalize this.
I know, but I've learned. Don't give them anything until we've got what we need in hand, because bureaucracy is at its best over there.
That's why I'm trying
concerned.
to approve this.
Do you have any update on the Bull Sluice? Okay.
We want to try to prove this to get past one level of bureaucracy.
So when will this be signed if we approve it?
It'll go back to them for a signature, but it will not be a contract until there's a lot more done. I think that's my point.
Do we have 2 more months before we have to give it to them for an MOA?
Well,
what's your timing from all the transportation standpoint?
We're hoping that tonight you'll approve this memorandum of agreement. As you'll recall, this is a 4-party agreement.
Right.
City of Roswell, National Park Service, Georgia Department of Transportation, and the Federal Highway. It is definitely going to take a while to wrap this all through all those different agencies for signature.
And again, Councilman Orleans, this does not legally commit the city to do anything. So I'm encouraging y'all to move this forward. We can always hold them up somewhere else if we need to.
And you understand my concerns and direction?
We forward your concerns every time we meet, and we explain to them that we are very anxious to get that other project done as well and to use all their available resources.
Councilmember Price.
Having met with the director of the National Park Service, she was very optimistic that the Bull Sluice issue will be solved very quickly. And also she relayed that because the National Park Service is getting ready to have their centennial celebration, that there may be some wonderful opportunities for some project that would be funded, that we could collaborate with them to satisfy some of these 9 items. So I think that moving ahead on the concept that we agree to move in this direction, and we'll provide some of that, is very wise in exchange for the land right-of-way that we're going to need for the highway project there. So I think it's very important that we get this ball rolling.
Is that a motion?
No. Would you like a motion?
We need a motion.
If nobody else has anything to say about it, I move to approve the MOA with the National Park Service that gives us right-of-way of approximately 1.1 acres of land needed for the historic gateway. In exchange, the city is committed to the 9 requests in the MOA as identified in agenda item report of today's date, file number 13-0065, with the 1 addition on number 9 to insert, if it is agreeable to them, the words shall instead of the word may.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Price, second by Councilmember Diamond. Is there anyone in the audience who has any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
The final item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with McGee Partners, Inc. for the design of Sun Valley in the amount of $309,429 and approval of a budget amendment BA 35042200-02-11-2013 in the amount of $80,000. Mr. Eisenbracht.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Very exciting new development here in the city of Roswell. We have a vacant building that's going to be used by a national firm. General Motors is going to jump into the old Herman Miller building. So we have a previously approved project to connect old Roswell with Sun Valley. I'm sorry, Warsaw with Sun Valley. And now we have an opportunity, I think we have a great opportunity to accelerate that project by taking it from our current in-house design efforts and turning it onto another very good roadway design firm, McGee Partners. We did not have enough money in our current budget to actually award that project. We are short the $80,000, but we did agree that for the additional $80,000, McGee Partners would be able to cut about 6 to 8 months off of the timeline for the design, and we believe that that is a good use of the city's tax dollars because we want to encourage General Motors to have that connectivity along with the other businesses that are already down there. And I need to tell you that we do not have a design. We have the survey. We started the preliminary layout. We are in conversations with some of the property owners, Honda, Carland, Audi, those dealerships that have businesses along Sun Valley. But I can assure you, Mr. Mayor and the rest of the council, that we will do our public outreach as we do on every project. And when we have the concept design laid out, we will do a public open house, and we will reach out to the various residential and commercial land use and make sure we get all of their input in this design process as we do on all of our projects.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Eisenbracht? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you. Mr. Eisenbracht, the difference is $80,000, but the total project cost is significantly more. I'm confused as to why or where the original money was being spent if we were planning on doing this in-house. Were we only doing a portion of it in-house?
No. Well, we were using that money for survey, for database preparation, survey, hydrology work, some environmental screening, and basically, if we had some money left over, we could start acquiring some of the right-of-way. So that was what all that money was there for. As you know, we do not have money for construction at this time. So when we originally scoped this out, this was one of the first major roadway design projects that we had, so we kind of, we might have overestimated some of the work that we'd actually used for the design work, but the money was still there in the project, and whatever we didn't use on the design, we would apply to the right-of-way acquisition.
So our original estimate for the 232 and change was based on us doing a lot of the design work in-house, but then having a lot of outside consultants as well. Is that correct?
Well, the outside consultants are the the professional trades that we don't have in-house, we don't have surveyors, so we have to outsource for that. We have to outsource for, say, if there are some geotechnical issues, if there was environmental issues, if there was hydrology or drainage issues, those sorts of specialty trades that we don't have within. We were going to act as the prime consultant, if you will, but we still envision supplementing our staff with other resources.
Okay.
That's what that money was for.
Okay, that makes sense. So McGee Partners will then be including all of those elements within this?
They have, yes, sir. We've already done the survey work, but they'll basically bring everything else that they have in-house, and that's part of their design fee.
Okay. One last question. Where the new connection will meet Alpharetta Highway, there's going to need to be some improvement, I would expect.
Yes, sir, there
that
will.
Intersection, is that included as part of
Yes,
this?
sir. That's actually quite a bit of the design cost. Is that Sun Valley is somewhat substandard and in several. It's deficient in several areas, and McGee Partners will including all of those improvements in their design.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other council members have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve the mayor and/or city administrator sign a contract with McGee Partners for the design of Sun Valley as described.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DePolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion for closure to discuss personnel, litigation, and real estate? Motion by Councilmember DePolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. All in favor, raise their hands. We're all in favor with reluctance. We have a work session in room 220. Cheerleader Stroud has a box of something, I don't guess, for handouts. I fear what's in that box.